In this video, I'm going to show you how to take this bundle of sticks and twigs and transform them into beautiful trees to flower in the springtime and reward you all summer long with delicious, fresh fruit. Hi, I'm Brian with Next Level Gardening. If you're looking to join an online garden community that offers tips, tricks, and support to help take your garden to the next level, you're in the right place. Get started now by clicking subscribe and hitting the bell so you never miss anything. Now let's get growing. Let me know in the comments what fruit trees you would like to add to your garden. I bought a bunch of fruit trees last winter, bare root, with high hopes that my orchard space would be ready by spring. Boy, was I overly optimistic. Here we are a year later and my orchard space isn't ready yet. So all the trees that I bought last year ended up in pots for the year, but they're fine and they are sleeping right now. And the fact that they are sleeping is precisely what makes this time of year the bare root planting season. Because the trees are dormant, they can be dug out of the ground, transported with no soil on the roots, and sold to us that way. But there is a very small window for doing bare root planting. But you want to take advantage of that window because bare root trees are less than half of what their potted counterparts are the rest of the year. Hence why I bought all those trees last winter. And I didn't learn my lesson because last week I went and bought more. And if you're subscribed to our Next Level Homestead channel, you probably saw the video where I went shopping for them and showed you the haul when we got home. If not, I'll leave a link right up here. I planted those trees in pots and at the same time potted up all the ones I bought last year into slightly bigger pots. Then I realized that a couple of the apple trees that I bought needed a pollinator. So we were at Home Depot and we got 2 more. Now this brings me to the 2 ways that they can come to you. Now, the ones I bought at the garden center first, they were in bins of wet wood shavings. The ones from Home Depot are in wet wood shavings as well, but they're bundled up like this. Now, I like the other way better because you get to sort through and examine the root systems of the ones you're purchasing before purchasing it. So I want to take you through the process of planting bare root fruit trees, and then you can go out and get your own and save some money. Now, before we unwrap these and see what we have, we need to talk about a few things that are really important. Number 1 is the chill hours. Deciduous fruit trees require a certain number of hours each winter below 45 degrees or 7.2 Celsius. If you live in a mild winter climate, you need to check with your local garden center and find out how many chill hours you have in your area. Now for me, we get around 500 or less chill hours in the winter. It's not a lot. So I need to look for tree varieties with those requirements, 500 or less. So I'm kind of limited on the things I can grow in terms of apples, pears, and cherries. Most of those need far more than 500 chill hours. Once you know your chill hours, you have to know if your variety needs a pollinator. Most peaches and nectarines do not. Most apples and pears do. A pollinator just means another tree that can cross-pollinate with it. The thing you need to look for in a pollinator pair are bloom time and climate requirements. And the 2 need to be blooming at the same time in order to cross-pollinate, right? So an early variety of apple wouldn't be good to pollinate a mid-season or late variety. An apple that needed 800 chill hours wouldn't be a good pollinator for an apple that only needs 300 hours if you can only provide them 300 or 400 hours. That's not enough for the 800-hour one to bloom and set fruit properly, so there'd be a mismatch there. So when you find a variety that you really want to grow that will work in your area with your chill hours, just Google pollinators for Fuji or whatever apple you chose, and then you'll get a list, check those, and see if they match your chill hours. The next requirement is full sun. It might go without saying, but maybe not. This is something you cannot cheat on. Fruit trees need a lot of sun to produce their fruit and ripen their fruit properly. So 6 to 8 hours at least. The next thing to worry about is proper spacing. Trees can get all different sizes, so you need to know how far apart one tree should be from the next. Now, as far as pollinators are concerned, they need to be within a 100-foot radius of the tree they're pollinating. So you don't want the bees to have to worry about traveling more than 100 feet to get good pollination. Now, usually the tag on the tree will tell you how far to space the tree from other trees. It might not be the tag with the picture of the fruit on it. There's usually a couple of other tags on the tree itself, and one has to do with the rootstock. When you buy a tree, it usually has a certain rootstock and then a certain top part. The top part is the variety of tree that you're wanting to grow. The rootstock is something that could be completely different. It could be a crabapple or something that is very hardy and vigorous, well-growing, or maybe a dwarf variety. So you can take a Fuji apple tree and you can put it on a rootstock that's supposed to be tall, or you can put it on a rootstock that keeps it as a dwarf variety. So the rootstock tag will probably tell you how big this tree is going to get. So if you have limited space, you might want to look for a dwarf variety or consider growing them as espaliers. I had 2 apple tree espaliers trained on the back of my garage at our old house in a bed that was only a foot wide from the house. And those two trees produce tons of apples every year. Now, a lot of the fruit trees I'm growing here are going to be espaliered simply because I want several varieties of each type of fruit. That way I can have early season, mid-season, and late season, peaches, pears, plums, apples, and so you get fruit over a longer period of time. Now, I will be doing a video soon about how to espalier a fruit tree, so make sure you're subscribed to our channel and have clicked the notification bell. Okay, let's open up these trees and see how they look. All right, so you want to just take a look at the root system, and I can see we've already got some new roots growing out here. And you want to look and see if there's any kind of broken roots or roots that look a little bit diseased, and we're going to prune those off. Honestly, I don't see anything like that here. Yeah, so that one's ready to go. Now, if you live in a cold winter climate, the ground still may be frozen when you get your trees home. So find some place a little sheltered where the ground is a little workable at least, and not a swamp, and just heel them in, meaning digging a trench deep enough to cover the roots and covering them with soil. That way they can get the moisture they need while waiting for the ground in their new home to thaw. Once you're ready to plant, you want to soak all the roots in a bucket of water for about an hour. This is going to start the tree out with the roots being fully hydrated. Now, while they're soaking, you can go and prepare the planting hole. Now, to figure out the depth in which these need to be planted, you want to find the bud union. And that is where the tree either has a little bump or takes a jog to one way. This is where the rootstock was hooked on and grafted to the variety. This is done because a good fruit variety that was bred may have produced good fruit, but wasn't a vigorous grower. So they take a vigorous rootstock and graft the fruit variety onto it. And that gives you the best of both worlds. Good fruit and good roots. And you definitely want to plant the tree with this bud union or graft union above soil level. On some trees, you can see that there might even be a change of coloring of the bark. Neither one of these have that, but that's where they were growing, at the level they were growing at before they were dug up and sold to you. That can show you the line where the tree was above and below the soil before it was dug up. Try to plant at the same depth. If you don't see that, just make sure all the roots are underground and that definitely the bud union or graft union is above the ground. So dig your hole with that in mind. Also dig the hole a little wider and a little deeper than the root ball. All right, I'm going to take a small time out here and put an optional step in. It's really not optional though if you have a gopher issue like I do. So to protect your tree from gophers, you're going to need to dig the hole a little deeper and a little wider than if you don't have gophers, because we're going to make a gopher basket. So the hole in this case should be about 2 feet in diameter and about 2 feet deep. Now I am using galvanized hardware cloth with 1/4 inch openings, and this is going to protect the perimeter of the tree, and it's about 2 feet deep. And then on the bottom of that, I've got chicken wire that I'm going to overlap so that the spacing are overlap. They're interconnected. The gophers can't get through there. Now this will only last maybe 4 years, 5 years until it's completely breaking down and rusting. But that'll give the tree a good chance to get its roots established. And most of the time, the main gopher tunnels don't go deeper than this. But the thing is, just having this, if we covered the bottom with this as well, this lasts for maybe 10 or more years, and the tree's roots are not going to be able to get out. With the chicken wire, they will, because they can grow through here, and then as the roots expand, they can stretch these holes apart. So you put this down in the bottom of the hole, put this on top of it, and then just bend the wire up around it just to keep it all contained. So it's a full basket with the bottom and sides. So you want to leave a good 3 inches of wire above the final soil level. Fill the soil back in and create the planting hole like I previously described before the gopher interruption. Now back to the regular video. If you're planting in heavy clay soil, you can add 2 cups of gypsum to the bottom of the hole and work it in. That's going to improve the drainage. Once the hole is at the proper width and depth, place a stick across the hole to mark the soil height. Lower your tree into the hole and try to have the bud union or graft union or the bend facing north to shade it from the sun, facing south, of course, in the southern hemisphere. Using the stick to adjust the depth of the planting while filling around the roots with your native soil. When planting trees, you don't want to amend the soil unless you're planting in almost pure sand, in which case compost will help the soil hold on to moisture. Compact the soil with your hands or the heel of your foot and create a watering berm around the tree. Next, we're going to water the tree in very well. So fill the basin that you made up, let it soak in completely, and then fill it up again. We don't want to fertilize the trees until the flower buds start to swell. And at that point, you can begin fertilizing every month with a well-balanced organic fertilizer. The next thing we need to do is stake our tree. Once the leaves unfurl in the spring, there will be more surface area to catch the wind. And there's not a lot of roots right now. The roots take a little longer than that to establish and fully support the tree. And so the best way we can do that is with a 45-degree stake. Now let me show you how that's done. Where'd the stake go? Oh. A lot of times you'll see a stake that's put in at the side of the tree and it's lashed to that stake. That just babies the tree and it does not allow it to learn how to stand on its own. What you want to do is take this stake and put it in at a 45-degree angle from the trunk of the tree. We're going to take the tree then, and we want to protect the bark of the tree from rubbing on the stake. So the first thing I'm going to do is put this right there, wrap it around the tree, and then wrap it, take it through both ways. So it's around the tree like that, and then wrap it around the stake. I think I pulled off way too much of this stake, but then give it a good tie. Cut off the extra. Now this will hold the tree down here and it will allow the top to move with the wind and kind of flex those muscles. Most bare root deciduous fruit trees need to be pruned at planting time. Now I'm using my Felcos, they're great for this. I'll leave a link in the video description if you haven't heard about these before. Because the root system on this tree is smaller than what this size tree needs to support it, we have to reduce the tree size as well. And I know that it's hard to do, especially when you see these little pink buds forming, but we have to do it. Now, the tree we planted, that is actually going to be trimmed as an espalier. And so I'm not going to show you how to do that. So if you're doing espaliers, don't prune your trees this way. This is just for regular traditional trees that are going to grow in an orchard. So the first thing we want to do is stand back and we want to create a good framework that will support this tree for the rest of its life. But we want to look for 2 planes of branches, meaning branches that are coming from 2 sides of the actual trunk. And you also want to remember that you want the final shape of this tree to be like a vase, like a flower vase, where the center of the vase is hollow or open to let the sunlight in. So I'm going to start off by just cutting off any broken or dead looking branches, any small branches that are really spindly like this one, those can go. And I'm keeping in mind all the time about 2 different sides. So anything that's not on those planes, we want to take them. So I'm going to start off here. This is a nice branch down here coming out, and we've got 2 more branches here. So we've got a plane this way, and we've got a plane this way and a plane this way. So I'm going to leave these bottom 3 branches. This one here is kind of coming out at an odd angle, so that's going to go. This one's coming out at the exact opposite angle of that, so that's going to go. Now here's a really nice branch right here, and it is on one of those 2 planes. So this one's staying. This one here is directly opposite of that, and even though it's small, I'm going to leave it. And the next 2, I'm going to remove those because they're not on the same 2 planes. And remember, what we're doing right now is we're not pruning this to look good right now, because it's not going to. It's going to look a little skeletal. But that's exactly what we want, is the bare bones that will grow into the biggest branches on this tree. This is a nice size one here. I think we can leave that. This one's going to come off. All right. Now I'm going to reduce the height of the tree by about 1/3. So the first thing I'm going to do is take out the main stem here, or the main trunk here, about by 1/3. So that's about right here. But when I do that, I want to take a look at these buds. Now you see these little spots where there's buds, or at least where buds would be, the little bumps on the branches. You want to cut down to just above one of those. And you want to cut down to one that is facing the outside of the tree. So that would be this one right here. So I'm going to cut on a 45-degree angle right there like that. What that's going to do now is this is going to, all of the energy that was put into the branch above it is now going to be sent back down, and these auxiliary branches or side branches are going to start to grow. And you want the one right here at the top to grow out away from the tree, so you still get that vase shape. You also want to cut off any branches that are facing inward, because we don't want that as well, because it's cutting into our vase. So like this one right here. And I'm still going to be cutting these down by 1/3, so I'm going to look, and there's actually this bud right here is actually starting to produce. So as soon as we chop that off, it's going to put a lot of hormone into that, and it's going to create another branch to come out that way. Always try to cut on a 45-degree angle, and that lets any rain that hits it run off and not cause any disease issues. Now, if it really kills you to prune off all of these buds, you can actually gather them up, take them in the house, put them in a vase of water, and they will just sit there and bloom away in the house. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you learned something, please give it a thumbs up. Consider subscribing if you haven't already, and share it with a gardening friend. See you next time.